Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Nico and this is episode 6 of Road to Masters. We try to obviously reach Masters rank playing Dune Imperium. Let's have a look at what we have in the rows. So first the decks. Oh, those are very good decks, all three of them. Really like them. Memo Cordos obviously is often a priority at the start of the game. And in the Imperium row here as well, those three Bene Gesserit cards are really powerful. Web of Power is a very interesting card, which we unfortunately most likely won't have, given that we are player 4. Unless we do an early reveal, but I mean, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Obviously as player 4 here, given the heroes, I would lock in the Baron and definitely try to bring him to first spot in this game, which we so badly need now to finally climb a bit those ranks after a few unfavorable episodes in the past, which I'll let you have a look at if you're curious. So let's lock in the usual master stroke with the Spacing Guild and the Freeman. Very standard, but I think the most powerful choice you can make with that Rise of X expansion and those shipping track spots that you really want to hit quite early if possible. So let's see what we have here. I mean, it's a very good hand, but the problem is that means our next hand will be quite terrible. So it's not ideal, to be frank. We will most likely want to go to Hardy Warriors, just to already trigger the Master Stroke, get our level 2 influence with Freeman, unlock Siege Tabor, which at least could give us an option for our Reconnaissance here. I mean, one more option than the ones that we see there. But let's see. Yeah, unfortunately, Spacefold and Smuggling, Fold Space for, sorry, and Smuggling are taken. So that does leave us basically our standard Baron play. I would take it round 1 because often, at least I would also try to disrupt a bit the Baron's play if I can. So I would expect, if not taken now, that one of those players could potentially take it next round just to mess with our plans. So let's not risk that, basically. And yes, we want to reveal the Master Stroke, and that's already a good first step for us. Now let's see what we can do next turn. Signaturing won't have much of a value because we don't have that Solari that could be useful given Smuggling is taken. So maybe a Diplomacy to just get a bit more influence could be a good idea. Maybe directly to Still Suits if it's not taken. Gain that water we just spent, get a bit more influence here and already have one foot in the Freeman Alliance. But let's see. Okay, Still Suit will be taken. Now the question is, do we want maybe to grab a water or an entry card with still the signaturing? Could actually be an idea. I mean, revealing early for the Web of Power could also be an idea, but given the other good cards that we have here, Truesayer, the Voice, maybe we give up on that. I'm not sure actually. You know what? Just for the content and for the fun. I mean, those are good cards. We could play them, but we will most likely end up being first here. And being second, I wouldn't mind, to be honest. Having that early Solari for the Swordmaster, getting an intrigue card wouldn't be too bad. Let's just go a bit crazy here. Web of Power. And that's it. Especially early, it's very interesting to have that Web of Power for that reveal effect potentially as well. And as a Baron, obviously, having already 2 influence with the Freeman, already 1 with the Spacing Guild, we're already halfway through those agent bonuses you can get with that powerful card. And what is also very useful with it is the infiltrate effect, given it only has 1 agent icon, which can be a weakness, but the infiltrate means that you can play it anytime regardless, so that agent effect can always be triggered if you are willing to do so. But let's see if that early reveal ends up being worth it. And I don't know if you will ever watch that video, but Kakarot, shout out to you. I don't know how many games we already played together, but it's at least the 3rd or 4th one. I feel like I always play with or against, should I say, Kakarot, and it's funny as well in the sense that it's a reference to Dragon Ball most likely, and in the end my name is also a bit of a wordplay with the Dragon Ball character, so seems we are understanding each other to a certain extent. Seems there's a limit. Let's try to be courteous, especially, to be honest, streaming makes me even slower because I tend to voice over what I'm doing, and obviously in the mind it goes a bit quicker, but yeah, in the end it makes it also that much interesting to try and put words on what is going on in that thinking process. So it's not something I complain about, definitely. So here I think smuggling would be interesting for us. Surprised that no one went there. I would have really liked going to Fault Space, obviously, just locking in that second step and be able to go to Interstellar Shipping next turn, but given our very good hand last turn, we don't have that luxury. So let's just go to smuggling. And that's quite a lucky shot, I assume, to be able to go to Fault Space in 4th position in round 2, but I mean, that's also what the game is about. What will we do now? And we have 3 persuasion. No one picked up the memo coders yet. Ah, just needed to speak about it. So now that this is gone, we actually don't really have a choice. If we want to participate in conflict and actually just play an agent, we shall get on one of those cities thanks to reconnaissance. And I think here with 2 daggers in hand, yes, let's jump in the conflict. Maybe still with 4 to try and get that second spot. I would obviously have loved first place, but that will not be happening given Tessia's involvement there. Tessia having the memo corders is actually also quite powerful for her. Usually the faction progress is something Tessia is obviously quite good at, thanks to her passive ability and signet ability mainly, but obviously the passive gives her a strong incentive to work on that. Here only having 2 persuasion hurts a bit, to be honest. I would have preferred, I mean, in the end, just going typically to tech negotiation with a dagger and keeping that persuasion from the reconnaissance card to be able to pick up one of those nice 3 persuasion cost card. So Kakarot seemingly, or Tessia should I say, seemingly focusing on persuasion, ignoring those cards I was just talking about, which is also a play, obviously. I don't say my opinions rule. I think everyone has their own way of playing, and that makes total sense. But I wish I had her persuasion to just buy one of those. So next round we would be hoping strongly for a smuggling open so that we can recall, get the 8 Solari necessary for a Swordmaster as early as possible. That's always the play. And that's where sometimes I think interstellar shipping is a bit overrated, is that it has this incentive of climbing those ranks and maybe giving up a bit on that early Swordmaster. And it can go very quickly. Sometimes you figure out you can maybe afford to wait 1 round, but then it means that maybe someone else reaches those 8 Solari and can play before you. So it means you actually might even delay your Swordmaster by 1, 2, or 3 full rounds, which is obviously a huge impact and might, in the end, threaten your competitiveness in that game. So we pick up second place, which is good, giving us 1 spice and 1 intrigue card. So we have that web of power. Unfortunately, will as of now only give us a water if we play it. So we might want to actually keep it for the reveal, getting our level 2 here with the Spacing Guild so that we can enjoy an interstellar shipping next round. And this gives, the fact that either of Kakarot or I mean, should call Tessia or myself recalling here gives enough Solari for Handro to be most likely the first one to pick up his Swordmaster. And now typically to Dune now is typically one thing where you might not make the right call, let's say in case your priority is to get Swordmaster, is by going down the line where you figure out you will have that 2 influence by next turn, so maybe I just go up here to enjoy the interstellar shipping to the fullest by going up and recalling, and that will be fine. I get my 5 Solari next turn and everything is good. But the thing is, by doing that, you will give the chance to Tessia to actually go to Swordmaster before you. Potentially by then, or most likely actually by then, Ilban will also have 8 Solari, and meaning that instead of getting it as a second player, like after Handro, you will actually be the last one. So that's typically something that I learned the hard way. Is now, although it was very tempting to just go up here and maybe enjoy interstellar shipping next round as a first player, I think the play here is rather to prioritize the Swordmaster first. And we will have it for sure, given our Landrad access is secured. We have 3 cards here allowing us to go there, and 6 in the deck, so for sure we will be getting the access. So now we will keep the Web of Power, just because I don't really see the value of going to secrets for now, given the agent icon does not really bring us much. Now the question is, should we actually... I think going for 1 water here, having already 1 here, could be a good play. Nobody has 2 water for now, so we could potentially claim this as a second agent next turn. Given the ambush, I think we will still step in. It's an interesting conflict to potentially win for cheap if no one else goes, although I would expect Handro to go, but second place is also something I wouldn't hate. And that water is important to keep in hand as well, to just not reveal your hand basically to your opponents, not telling them that this is a possibility for you. And now we will end the round with 5 persuasion, a reveal turn, which will probably see us picking up hopefully the Truesayer and maybe also an Imperial Spy. I kinda like that card. The fact that it trashes itself for a bonus means you don't really keep it long in the deck anyways. Having like 1 access to those Emperor spots makes sense. I know Truesayer also has it technically, but it's a much more versatile one. You can also go to Bene Gesserit or to the Landsrat, so it is something. So now it's curiously picked up by Tessia, which is quite interesting. So now let's take it with the Spacing Guild. Let's take that Imperial Spy, as we talked about. And here, between Local Fence and Arrakis Liaison, we might actually go for a Local Fence. The flexibility of a trade, and it only has 1 less access than the Arrakis Liaison, but same persuasion. I think the flexibility of its agent effect can potentially help. And I see ourselves anyways picking up a couple of Arrakis Liaison in the future when we have 2 persuasion. So I think we can go for the Local Fence right now. Oh wow, already 9 persuasion. That's probably a Spice Must Flow. Ah no, I can understand the play. I'm also not a big fan of buying Spice Must Flow too early in the game, because it kinda ruins your chances of having a good deck, at least for the next few rounds. So I can understand, although I can also understand the fact that you want to lock in a point when you can, and that's obviously a very, very smart and safe approach as well. So let's see, now obviously priority is clear. We will just not even spend our time thinking about it. We want to keep the signet ring for a bit more flexibility, potentially going to the great flat as we said. And that is our first turn. Diplomacy. We could potentially draw it with Poison Snooper, but I think we have enough to do here, and we can keep it basically for next round. What do we have in terms of... Chomerky is really one I like as well. Let's see if... Maybe an interesting play would be to go with the Dune, the desert planet, to the Great Flat, or with the Signet Ring. Now the thing I'm thinking is this Signet ability I might not really be willing to use, because having a Dreadnought now is within our capacity, given our 3 Solari, and it might be something I would be willing to do. Given obviously the durability of a Dreadnought, can just send it in, aim for second or third spot and get it back. It's such a convenient way of participating in the conflict. Now I'm just thinking, would it actually make sense to go first to Dreadnought? No, actually, Tessia has now 2 water. Probably to try and pick up that great flat bonus spice, so we will do it ourselves. That's a very nice amount of spice we pick up. Still strongly hesitating going to Dreadnought. I mean, on one hand I like Chomerky, on the other one 4 spice is a lot. Buying it without a discount is obviously a bit more painful. And it would put me at 4 cards, so given I don't really want to play Poison Snooper, knowing that the Diplomacy would be a useful card to play next round, I would need at least 1 card that I can play, and that's obviously not a given. So I'm not exactly sure what would be the right play here. And going to Dreadnought, I'm a bit of an optimizer, so given I have the possibility of like the benefit of both a Dreadnought and buying a tech at the same time, I would somehow be willing to do that. So let's go with the dagger, given anyways we're not in the conflict and the signet ability wouldn't be triggerable because of our lack of Solari. So let's pick up still. What did we buy here? We have, well, we will be trashing it anyways. We have the 2 daggers, so I'm not sure this is really the best idea. Let's just take Chomerky and hope for the best. I'm a bit of a gambler, so this is obviously something that I maybe should not have done, given now I'm a bit forced into playing that, which is not great, but I will do it. It's still much better than giving an intrigue card to our opponents, obviously. So that was not the most prudent play, but let's say it's my gambler side. So that's a play purely to, same as us, basically burning an intrigue card is what you would call it, to make sure that no one can steal one from you. Although he was being very conservative because next round he'll be the first player, so not exactly sure what those other three cards are, but he had a very low risk of being robbed of one and would have been in a position to potentially play it as a first player next round. So let's reveal now on our side. I kinda like Bene Gesserit Initiate for the different agent icons and the fact it can allow you to just draw a card. Although one persuasion is not ideal, obviously, but drawing cards is useful. Allows you to cycle through that deck and go maybe a bit quicker with getting back to your good cards. What is the shuttle fleet actually popped up after our purchase, which is obviously also quite an interesting one, especially for those two influence you can gain. The solar is useful early. Now we're already halfway through in terms of number of rounds, so it might lose a bit of its value, but it can still help. Obviously, especially for Ilban, for instance, who really likes the Menta every turn, or as much as possible. So that's actually a way of just breaking even each time and getting the Menta for free, let's say, every start of the round. So we have the diplomacy back, so a bit of a lucky draw there. Maybe now an idea would be to potentially go to wealth just to get a bit up there and potentially making the most of the web of power when we have it back. Oh, that's a shuttle fleet gone. Very interesting. So that's two alliances for Handro. Let's see if he'll be able to keep them. I mean, as it stands, it seems no one is really competing, but that can change quite quickly. Actually, also going to wealth could be an idea just to be able to make use of the signet ability. Actually having a... that could be interesting. Maybe first recruiting a troop to be able to lose it next turn when going there, hopefully. That could help. Or even collecting one spice. No, we need to recruit a troop, so it's gonna have to be probably Siege Dabre, maybe Arakin. And we might go then with Bene Gesserit Initiate. Actually, given that makes us draw a card, it could make sense to go to Arakin, just to try and gather persuasion, don't have a high persuasion deck, so we cannot actually get that much out of it. So maybe it's not really worth it. Maybe let's just pick one water. And undo. So that's the last Nooper token gone for Tessia. Let's not forget also about that memo corridor she does have. She's already so close to it, but that's not really surprising. So let's use this Bene Gesserit initiate to siege Tabor. Let's just put both in. This does not matter, right? I think you can lose a troop from both in combat or in the garrison, although I'm not 100% sure. But given it doesn't say differently on the card, I would assume so. Let's do that play. Just getting that influence out of the way. Those who already watched a couple of my videos know that I'm not a very big fan of those Emperor spots. For me, quite situational. Sometimes, don't get me wrong, especially that Conspire can make sense, but for 4 spies, it's a lot, especially knowing that Hayliner is a combat spot, is much more actionable, let's say, for 2 more spies, so maybe makes sense to usually try and keep those spices to surprise opponents with a Hayliner. But yeah, Conspirer still can make sense, especially early when you don't really have another way of getting a Swordmaster. It's a good way of gathering that Solari. And overall, it's not a bad spot, don't get me wrong, but it's usually not part of my priorities. And now, obviously, the idea was definitely to have the 2 influence on all but the Bene Gesserit track, so that now the Web of Power has really much more value to us in terms of agent plays. Let's maybe make a quick round of how everyone has their points. So here we have 2 alliances for Handor. A spice must flow for Ilban. And that's a typical Tessia with already all the influence track progresses and 1 alliance token. Oh, she actually has 4 intrigue cards. I didn't see that one. Ah, but yeah, because she went there. So now it's kind of blocked, although for us with the Web of Power it could have been a play had we had it in our hand. Funnily enough, no one is interested in that conflict, so that will probably cost us our Dreadnought for next round. Let's see what Tessia has in hand other than that. Given the number of intrigue cards and the fact she doesn't action them, that might mean she will have to trigger combat cards just to get them a bit out of the way. for us, I think now the play would be to, let's see what kind of tech do we have, because we could always still go to tech negotiation, but I don't think so. I think signaturing to Carthage is something we'd like to do now. And that's obviously a very interesting one. And kind of forgot that now with the signet ability we can get another one. So maybe we just do it, knowing that we are pretty safe for now, and we can always play potentially a combat card or even that double cross. Denying someone a few Solari could be a fun play. And actually what is interesting is then Tessia wouldn't be able to play any combat card if that's the plan, to get down from those 4 cards she has. So just for the fun of it, I think that will make sense during our reveal turn, make a bit of a double cross there. Oh, that's another Spice Mesh flow for Ilban. Let's hope there is no corner of the market in that intrigue pile he has. And that is funny because obviously those daggers will also disappear from doing that double cross play. I mean, to be honest, it's not the most brilliant play, but it just, again, burning an intrigue card, making sure we don't get robbed of one. I could also have burned rather a combat card instead, but I see a bit more value in those, especially also just for the fact that now Tessia is a bit like overshooting these entry cards, and most likely had a plan of burning one during the combat. So now that is not the most brilliant hand we could have, but I think Imperial Spy, I mean, he will give us another intrigue card, but I think just going to Wealth, having 8 Solari, worst case if we cannot burn the other card, just using Chome Chairs could make sense. Reason is I don't really want to put it back in my deck, so I wouldn't want to reveal it. I'd like to just get it out of the way, but it might not be the first play we should be doing here. Maybe actually a local fence, getting us that spice, to then use the Imperial Spy to go to Conspire could be interesting. Gives us too many intrigue cards again, but wait, does it work in terms of Solari? Can we make sure at least to use Chome Shares, because that's one I don't want to get robbed of. So here we would spend 5 and get 5 back, so no, that's not enough actually, which is a bit of a shame. Maybe we just go to interstellar shipping if no one went there, just to be able at some point to recruit those 2 troops. Could make sense. Now, had I seen that play a bit earlier, I would definitely have chosen Carthage rather for, or Arakin maybe, for the Dreadnought, to just get 1 Solari out of that and be able to do the play we were talking about before, while getting that last Solari missing for Chome Shares. But that obviously does not seem to be happening. Now, I think... Yes, I think going to interstellar shipping now. It's probably a bit too late, to be fair, to go there, but given, I mean, no one has like an actual big garrison, so those 2 troops, that little influence bump we can get, could still make sense, to be honest. have in our deck obviously that Web of Power, and those two other cards are not that great, obviously. I think maybe a local fence to Arakin now could make sense. Or to Siege Tabr, getting a second water, lining up ourselves for a potential research station. The next few rounds could make sense, but we are a bit short of persuasion. We haven't really focused that in that game. We don't have the High Council yet, so it might not be that valuable. But now that Arakin is taken, I think it will be the play. And let's get ourselves that spice still, just in case. We'd still want to play around and try that play. Now that's a victory point that I don't think many will fight for, given it's round 6. But Handro still has 2 agents. So he could easily potentially go even to Hardy Warriors, deploy. So I don't think we will deploy anything. Let's keep those. Yes, I think that confirms that it was the right choice for us, especially given that we couldn't even react on that next round, most likely. I mean, maybe Kartag would still be open for reconnaissance and send in 1 more troop. That would lead us to 6, and Handro would still have 1 agent left. And yeah, most likely Kartag would have been taken anyway, so sending on in those 2 troops now, knowing that there was a very small chance of being able to retaliate in case someone else was how would you say, overcoming us in terms of power, would have been a bit of a lost cause, to be fair. I silently hope that still someone goes to Imperial Basin just to make use of my dreadnought here, to not have sent it there in vain. But it seems at least Tessia won't bring me that favor. Maybe Handro? So now the question is, what do we do? I think we still go to Conspire after claiming I never use those Emperor spots. Now I go there twice in 2 rounds, which is still funny. But I think, I mean, here anyways, I will trash this card, so I will get 1 more intrigue card. And if I cannot play it, there's nothing I can do, basically. So at least getting 2 intrigue cards and 2 troops. I mean, those 2 intrigue cards dilutes a bit the one I really don't want to get stolen. And those 2 troops can be very useful in the future, so... Actually, that's not a bad one. I think we can just grab that alliance directly now. I like that card. Oh, and that's one we cannot play now. And it's an interesting endgame one, so let's hope. Now there are 2 cards we don't really want to get stolen, but let's just live with it and play with that. Again, a bit of my gambler's trait, but let's hope it won't come back and bite me. So that's 1 alliance for us, which is good. Now we just need this point, and technically in terms of influence I'd be happy. And now our garrison is quite solid, also counting the fact that we can at some point recall that one for just 1 influence, probably. with the Bene Gesserit, or potentially just to make sure we defend the Emperor one. And having those two more troops in the garrison will certainly be helpful as well. Now let's see. Oh, at least this time it's not a spice must flow for Ilban. I spoke too early. That's insane. He bought like 3 in a row. I think he has 4 now. Ah no, he has those 3. Okay. Or did he just buy 2 in a row? Maybe I'm mixing it up a bit. So let's, I mean, not much for us to do. Let's reveal. Probably just take that Arrakis liaison. Maybe at some point we will still have enough persuasion for a spice must flow. Especially now that we have those 2 water, we can still hope for that. Our next hand is not gonna be the greatest, except obviously for that web of power, which we will finally be able to use to its fullest extent. Maybe actually we'll go, I mean, we are not the first player to play, but in case it's not been taken by anyone else, maybe we should go to secrets just to defend our cards. Although selective reading would also be very nice in that attempt of getting a spice must flow. Oh, now Hundro will be at 9 points. That's actually crazy at the end of round 6. That's a bit too early for us. I have that weakness in my play of usually planning quite a bit more longer term, so I'm usually trapped by those games where the victory points are piled up a bit too quickly to my taste. So now this is definitely something we should be fighting for, especially with our garrison. But we don't have that much choice. Tessia having enough for a Hayliner, not ideal. Maybe we just want to go for a Menta first thing. Although, actually not. No, I think smuggling is important for us because it gives us that victory point thanks to Web of Power a bit later, and it gives us that Solari to just use Chom shares. This is actually helping us potentially as well. If she can overcome him, it might just make that game go a bit longer. But let's see. So now, yes, I convinced myself. I mean, that combat will be a bit complicated for us, given we have already 2 agents pre-booked, so we will only have Arrakis liaison potentially to one of those city space, but with all those combat cards, intrigue cards, we can hope to still get in front. So here we recall. That makes enough garrison for at least this round and the next one. So we take the Solari, and we take the influence with the Bene Gesserit. So that puts us at 7 immediately, 8 whenever we want. And maybe actually, I mean, let's see how that conflict goes, but we could imagine still competing seriously in it and potentially getting at least close to winning it. Let's see. So now our question will be, I mean, not necessarily right now, but maybe we should still target selective breeding to try and get that spiceless flow. Because I think, given the fact that as an agent effect it gives us one card, these give us two, and we have two water, so we could also go to research station, although that means we can deploy one less troop, which might be problematic. Maybe we just draw one card with Arcane. Yes, I think that's going to be the play. That makes us use 2 persuasion. So in total we would draw 1 card here, 2 here, and 1 here, so 4. And we would have, sorry, how many? We would have just 2 in our hand. Out of 4 cards, getting 7. It's quite complicated, I think. We have 13 persuasion in total over 10 cards, so 1.3 for each per card, technically. 4 times that means 5.2, and we try to reach 7. I mean, we can still try, just... Anyways, we want to go to one of those 3 spots. Not really card tag, given our entry cards are valuable. And Siege Tower is not of much use for us, so let's still try it. So we got a Bene Gesserit Initiate, which is already not that promising in terms of persuasion. So now drawing 3 cards, knowing that we have 3 persuasion in hand, means we need 6 out of those 3 cards, which is basically 3 at 2 persuasion, and we only have 4 out of the whole deck. So it's very, very unlikely. We could still try it, but I'm not sure it's worth it. I think at this point it might just be more worth it to dig for an intrigue card with Web of Power. Knowing that if we occupy this space, it's very unlikely someone else can go there to steal 1 card from us. Is that for a spaceport maybe, to try and get to that spiceless flow? Or to just try and get better intrigue cards out of those she already has? Okay, the latter. So now our play will be Web of Power, I think secrets. I don't think it's... I mean, I am a gambler, but not a desperate one, so I think very unlikely we get to those 3 2 persuasion cost card we need. So let us just go to secrets, get that influence with the Bene Gesserit, which gives us point number 8. Let's draw a card here and another one here. So as we saw, Signet Ring was the first one we drew, so it was in the end the right call, I think, not to even gamble for that selective breeding. War Chest, we won't be able to trigger it for the endgame, at least if endgame happens now, but I would assume so, given Ilban's 6 cards in hand, his High Council, and he seems to be clearing his excess intrigue cards just for potential tiebreakers. Yes, that is one more victory point for him. Hopefully no corner the market. Plans within plans wouldn't do anything for him. It would give 1 point to Tessia. So let's also hope there is no such endgame card in her hands. Oh, that's a powerful move. 19, let's see how much we get. We get to 18, 19 with that dagger. So we cannot win that conflict already. It's a bit of a shame to see that. Although maybe there is a staged incident and she might be greedy, thinking she can win it anyways. Let's see. I mean, it's our only hope, so it's a bit the only thing we can gamble on. Let's not buy anything, because that could just reveal a card that is of interest for someone else. In terms of like acquisition effect, I'm especially thinking of a Chome directorship, I think it's called. That one that when you purchase it gives you a one bump with every faction. Which would actually not be that much of a use for anyone, except maybe if Tessia has that end game card, plans within plans, it would just give her that last point she's missing here. And actually 2 troops in her garrison, which could be a tiebreaker, but an unlikely one. Although we have Chomerki, so that is at least on our side. That's not ideal. That means he will get at 9, and we have very little hope of even being in the top 2, and that's a pass on Tessia's side, so I mean, let's still fight for it, because in the end, denying Tessia that victory would make us at least not finishing last. Yes, I was just thinking about tiebreakers, but we don't need to think about that. Let's see if Handro has anything to say about that conflict, but most likely not very useful anyways for him. So it seems none of those are combat cards, so let's just hope there is no endgame, and we might save ourselves at least 1 star by not ending up 4th. And we end up being 3rd, which to be honest is not that bad given how earlier that game ended based on my planning. But yeah, thank you very much for following my journey, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I'd be glad to see you also on Sundays. I'm trying to do a live YouTube every Sunday, so feel free to drop by, and have a good one. See you soon.